Welcome to session 2, where we will focus on collaboration and integrating individual language access plans and individualized education programs. This 6-part series addresses the intersection of English language acquisition and IEPs through the building of linguistically responsive IEPs for multilingual learners. This series is presented by the Maine Department of Education's Office of Teaching and Learning and Office for Special Services and Inclusive Education. The facilitators are Melissa Franz, a Teacher Leader Fellow in the Office of Teaching and Learning, and Leora Byras, Education Specialist in the Office of Special Services and Inclusive Education. The mission of the Maine Department of Education is to provide the best learning opportunities for all students, ensuring equitable access to resources and support for schools, educators, and leaders. A central theme in this series is the importance of collaboration in supporting Maine's multilingual learner population, particularly those with disabilities. Collaboration is a shared responsibility, both within the Maine Department of Education and across the state in our collective roles and responsibilities. Who is here today? We have over 200 participants registered for the Synchronous Professional Learning Opportunity, including the 39 school administrative units you see here on the map, and 10+ organizations throughout the state of Maine. All recorded sessions and their accompanying resources will be available on the Maine Department of Education website for asynchronous learning as well. In response to a question from session 1, we want to address the following. What if my district isn't following applicable laws regarding multilingual learner students? We at the Department of Education want to emphasize that every school administrative unit, SAU, is required to have a school board approved LAU plan, which references federal and state law and provides a contextualized blueprint for multilingual programming to ensure equitable access and opportunity for all identified multilingual learners and their families. This slide and the following slide provides access to Maine Department of Education resources, including a Maine DOE LAU Plan Framework template. For further information or questions or support, please contact the Maine DOE Multilingual Programming Specialists found on our website. Today's session will cover several key topics. 1, determining eligibility for special education and related services for multilingual learners. 2, the importance of family engagement, informed consent, and meaningful participation in the process. 3, understanding the IEP and the ILAP, or Individual Language Access Plan, and avoiding what is called the specialization trap. And 4, the role of collaboration in meeting the learning needs of multilingual learners with disabilities. Thank you, and let's get started.
Thank you, Jane. And I believe Leora is going to kick us off, but I wanted to check in with you, Leora, and just note what time it is and say that we would want to let people know that you're going to have full access to the slide deck after our session. So we are going to breeze through these fairly quickly because we really want to get you into your building and or district-based groups to really do the work of collaboration. So some of this stuff we will not focus on as much as we would if we had more time.
Thank you, Melissa. So we just want to talk first starting about the determination of eligibility for special education and related services. So a big part of that determination of eligibility is interdisciplinary collaboration. Federal regulations definitely encourage that, and because we want to make sure that any of the related services that kids need to access FAPE that they have. Thank you, Jane. Okay, so exclusionary factors. So if the IEP team determines that the child's needs were primarily due to extrinsic factors, and they're not able to determine that the academic or behavioral difficulties are due to a disability, the child would then be it would be deemed that they do not qualify. They're not eligible for special education and related services. But if the IEP team finds that exclusionary factors are not the primary or sole cause of the student's difficulties, then the team goes through the process and reviews the data to determine whether or not the student needs to have SDI to access their education. So this is an IDEA reference, and it's part of the IEP to consider the language needs of the child as they relate to the IEP. And this is a very important piece about parent. Oh, Melissa, were you going to do this? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. Sure. So we're very giving you a quick overview of the expectations of collaboration amongst different stakeholders through the IEP process and special ed lens. But we really want to talk about how important it is for families to be engaged throughout the process. We know that they're a required participant on IEP team. They're listed right there under IDEA as the first on that list of people that are at the table. And we know parents have really crucial information about their children, and they really need to be an integral part of the team. But beyond that, really collaborating with families beyond the IEP development and or initial eligibility. So we're not focusing on family engagement today, but we really wanted to highlight the importance of that. As well as obviously below you can see highlighted other individuals with knowledge or special expertise regarding the child. Next slide, Jane. Thank you. And that would be in reference to ESOL teachers, and we did touch upon this in our first section, but having someone there who has the requisite knowledge to speak to the child's cultural and linguistic needs, that typically is an ESOL teacher. They're not defined in IDEA. They're considered that additional person, but their title is not determined in the way a gen ed or a special ed or a LEA representative is. Next slide. And then we know through IDEA, parent participation is crucial and is required, and it is up to SAUs to provide the appropriate tools and access for families to be able to communicate, fully participate, and give informed consent throughout the process, and having them be able to communicate in a way that they can be understood and that they can understand and access the information being presented to them, which includes providing free interpretation and translation services so that parents can have the access to the same information that they use the term LEP, limited English proficient. That's sort of a deficit view in my point, but that is the federal phrasing we use. So that our multilingual families have the same access to information that our monolingual families would have. Next slide, please. And Jane, I believe you'll take this.
So we just wanted to be sure that we circled back to, we referenced IDEA. This is referencing the LAU plan framework. So every SAU in the first session, we asked you to see if you could identify or locate your district's LAU plan. Section 9 of the LAU plan is meaningful communication with parents and guardians. So we just wanted to be sure that when we're talking about this, every district has made a commitment through their LAU plan for this. And so it's really helpful, and it's linked here. You can go and reference that. But again, that's the importance of knowing that LAU plan, understanding it, and then saying, how are we making our commitment to enacting this? So that's here for you. And we also wanted to highlight that when we talk about LAU plan construction with superintendents and with leaders and stakeholders in this work, we also talk about like why we would plan for language access. And so we always reference the Office of Civil Rights and the Department of Justice fact sheet, and that we are obligated to do this by law. But more importantly, it's really about language access as empowerment, and it creates opportunities for increased engagement and for families to feel included, to feel safe, to feel that they have agency and an involvement as in the team. So it's really, really important, really challenging to do. But we know that people are using many platforms across the state, and they're also really reaching out to say, what is the language access plan? How can we build that? So there are resources on our website, and we reference them quite a bit. And many of your SAUs are committing to Section 9 right now because they see how important it is with school safety, with communication in all realms. And then just another disclaimer to really talk about the distinction between translation and interpretation. And so we have reference here to that, so that we really want to be sure that every opportunity we have when we're with our colleagues, when we're with leaders, school board members, families, what is the difference between translation and interpretation? And so interpretation is really around spoken or sign language, and translation is around written text.
Sorry about that, I was muted. So we want to just take a quick minute and look at this comparison visual, looking at the ILAP and the IEP side by side, because there are a lot more similarities than there are differences. And they both have the same chunks of information, even though they're overseen by different agencies. And the bottom line really of both of these documents is making sure that everyone on the child's team is aware of what their needs are to be educated. So both of these documents work together for our twice exceptionally eligible students to help them access their education. And this visual is in the resource guide. All right, I think we're ready for, yep, there we go.
So I'm gonna mention this video. We had intended on watching this video today, but I think given the time, we're gonna share this slide deck with you. You'll have access to this video, and I strongly encourage you to take the 3 minutes. That is the length of this video to check it out. This is Debbie Zakarian. She's a well-known expert in the multilingual field. She has provided a lot of expertise and guidance through Color in Colorado. This video really talks about, although it is not a recent video, the content still applies for why a team approach is really essential in serving our dual identified students. So I'd highly recommend you watching this and sharing with colleagues, and they have multiple other references or resources available on this subject. So we'll skip that for now, but please check it out if you have the time later. So we have a great reference. You'll find it at the end of the slide. There's a book titled Collaboration for Multilingual Learners with Exceptionalities. It's written by Andrea Honigsfeld and Audrey Cohen. Andrea Honigsfeld has done a lot of work with her other writing partner, Maria Dove, around co-teaching and collaboration for multilingual learners. This book focuses on our dual identified students, and they document, as probably many of you already know, that teacher collaboration is an essential practice in education, and it is heavily essential for our dual identified students. And through their research and their experiences, they have seen a more intentional focus on multilingual learners, all the variety of needs and strengths that they present through intentional and focused collaboration and partnerships. So in a moment, when we tell you to go, we're just going to ask you to quickly put in the chat, what are some of the structures that exist in your context that support collaboration? So if you can just take a few seconds, think about that, start to type it in the chat, but don't hit enter yet.
Hello.
We'll give you the go ahead to enter so you
Yeah,
can
I'm
enter
okay.
all at
I
once.
just
Take a minute to think about that and enter it in the chat. What are those structures that are supportive of collaboration in your context?
gotta press something. I'll make sure.
Jane, will you hit next? Go ahead, please add those to the chat. Oh, back to that. Sorry, thanks. Go ahead and add that to the chat. Thank you. All right, so we see direct conversations between colleagues, in-class observations,
Hmm.
meeting coordinator, common planning time and PD times, no official structures, collaboration on initial referrals and reviews, team meetings, still exploring ways to collaborate, grade level meetings, co-teaching, that's great. I'd like to
Mhm.
hear more about that, Michaela. Every child by name conferences, discussing every student in the classroom. Wow, that's impressive. Co-teaching, co-planning, lots of co-teaching. That's great. Inviting ESOL teachers to IEPs. So I see informal and formal structures that support this.
Mhm.
This is great. You all have a lot to build on when you go into your breakout rooms with your teams. This is awesome.
And one of the things I would say is that, like, the word structure, right? And some folks were saying there's nothing official. And so that balance between official and just, unofficial, if you will. And so really looking at those systems and structures, MTSS came up. So really interesting underpinnings for these invisible and sometimes visible conditions.
All right.
Hmm.
I see someone asking about BAR, the Building Assets Reducing Risks program. In a few minutes, I'll look for the link and put that there. I know some school districts across the state are using that. I have a vague familiarity, but I don't want to speak to it. But I can put a link in the chat in a little bit.
I got it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is that Kim?
No, it's
Thank
me,
you.
Leora.
Okay, Leora. Okay. And thank you, Kim, for putting that in there
Oh,
as well.
Kim got it before me? Oh, no. No.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. I kind of got crazy there.
So this is just a highlight. We all have our own roles and our own lanes, and we're really comfortable in our lanes, right? We're familiar with what we do, for the most part, what is expected of us, the instruction that we deliver, the students that we work with. Today, we're going to encourage you to think about how do we get a little uncomfortable with moving out of our lane to learn more about someone else's lane so that we can support each other and therefore more holistically support our students across all content areas and throughout their entire day. Next slide, please. Sarah Kangas, who has done quite a bit of research and writing in the area of dual identified students on multilingual learners with disabilities and specifically around reclassification of multilingual learners who are in special education. She writes about the specialization trap, and you will have access to this article, so you can read it in its entirety if you like. But she talks about when we get focused in our own areas, this sort of divide and conquer approach of teaching our strengths and what we know and presuming another educator is covering the other areas and we don't work together, that our students really receive fragmented, inadequate services and supports. And she provides this awesome sort of framework in thinking about how do we start to ask those questions of each other so we can understand not be responsible for other people's work, but understand their work so that we can integrate someone else's expertise into what we're doing so we can understand who our students are. Next slide, please. These questions she provides in the same article are for teachers to use when we know that teachers don't often have the opportunity to learn how to work together. Our teacher prep programs don't necessarily teach us how to collaborate with each other. And education has really been built on sort of this is my classroom, I'm the expert, I know what I do, and in this room, close my door and I teach my students, right? And so these questions allow people to start building those partnerships of how do we talk to each other? What are the questions I should ask of you? If I don't know what you do, I don't know what I don't know and what to ask you. So these questions provide a framework of how can we talk to each other and what's the information you hold that can help me provide a better experience for my students. Next slide, please. This graphic, which you will also have access to, I would strongly encourage you to check out this collaboration tool. It's an information collection tool created by WIDA. WIDA is the consortium who creates our English language proficiency assessment called Access and Alternate Access. And you can see by this visual, and you probably can't read it because it's tiny, but at the very top, it's around family and community input. And the circles represent information related to disability, language, and academics. And you can see how they overlap. And this tool really is to get us thinking about what are the areas of information that pertain to this one specific area? And then what's the information that crosses all areas for students? How do we collect that? What are the questions we ask? And then how do we use it to design and enhance our instruction to better meet their students' needs? We're not going to utilize this tool today. We're definitely running out of time, but I wanted you to see what it looked like. So when you get a link to it later, you'll remember, hopefully planting a seed in your mind to come back to checking it out. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to send you off into groups. Your time with your group is going to be unfortunately shorter than we had it hoped for. However, we want you to go into groups with your teams. These groups will be based on your district team. So you may be from a junior high in a district, and your room will have people from elementary to high school, pre-K, perhaps adult ed. Leora created rooms for special purpose private schools. And Leora, tell us about that one other room.
So there is a room labeled professional organizations for sort of the other folks who are from those types of people who are joining us. But there's also the option, if you work with different districts, then feel free to go into those district meetings if that would be more helpful. And in the same way, if you are a singleton here today, then feel free to jump into another district so that you're able to talk about the prompts.
So you're going to have two options, and this is a little on the fly. So I've sprung this on Leora. She doesn't even know it yet.
Oh
but
gosh.
And we're going to ask you to take a screenshot if you can. So when you go to your group, someone in your group will have a picture of this visual, because unfortunately we don't have it linked. It's sort of Frankenstein together from a few different things. So we're going to ask you to go into your work group, and we want you to talk about the current reality of how you deliver services for your dual identified students. What does collaboration look like? And the professional learning opportunities for staff working with those students. What's your current reality around that? And what are your next steps, resources, and supports you potentially need to do that work? Our goal is to get you together as a building and/or district-based group to start creating some action, problem solving, thinking about what currently exists and how do we move this forward in a positive way, and what are the things we need to support that. So we all know the barriers, right? We know what the barriers are to collaborating. But we also know that there are pockets, and I saw that long list you put in the chat. There are a lot of strengths to build on. So this is one tool you can use with your team to discuss collaboration. And then, so hopefully you've all taken a screenshot of this. I'll give you a quick second. And then next slide, Jane. This is also another tool if you would like to use this one instead. This comes from the Honigfeld and Cohen book I mentioned earlier, and it's around dimensions of advocacy. And your team can go through these questions, simple yes or no questions, and what would be your next steps around these things for building more inclusive collaborative practices for supporting dual identified students. So I know you don't have a lot of time. This is an introductory conversation. It's just to get the ball rolling. We're going to send you off into your groups. We're going to
About 10 minutes.
Yeah, we'll give you 12 minutes because it's now
12 minutes. All right.
12 minutes, 4:25.
And you guys are going to, when I open the rooms, you're going to see the list and you'll have to self-select which one you belong to. All right.
So I'm sorry for the time. We know it's rushed. There's never enough time.
Did it come up right for you guys?
I did not see it, no.
It's in the more options on the Zoom
Yeah.
controls.
Thank you.
If
So if you're
anyone,
not breakout
if
room,
yeah,
Go
if
ahead.
anyone has any questions or needs support, we can pop you in a room. So just let us know. Leora, do you want to, did you pause the recording?
Thank you.
your RTI teams, your leadership teams to talk about what are the structures that you need to build on? What are the things that need to be in place to help those structures exist and be effective? Next slide, please. Sharing resources, yes. All right, next, yes. Here's the book I referenced earlier. You will be getting a highlight from today's session like we did after session 1. You'll get the links to the resources that we've mentioned, along with this Padlet. Please, when you click on that Padlet, don't be overwhelmed. Padlet, when I first started using them, I was like, whoa, too much information. You can self-select what you want to learn more about, and it is organized so the things we're referencing should be right in the beginning when you pop onto that Padlet. Next slide, please. We'll see you on March 18th. That's when we're going to start to really get into the work of integrating the ILAP into an IEP. Next session, we'll be focusing on section 3, special factors and considerations. Next slide. Again, you'll get this. Please don't feel like you need to screenshot it or remember any of it. You'll get this in your email. Part of our session includes an hour of work in between each time we meet together. That accounts for the 2 contact hours you get for each session. So this is the work that you'll be participating in before we see you on March 18th. And next slide. And Leor, I think,
I think we're all set with the Canva. I'm hoping.
Awesome.
Because I
Great.
saw some people on it earlier today, and I recorded a 2-minute little snippet video yesterday, and when I sent out the reminder, just about the Canva and how to navigate it. But if you
Awesome.
go on to the next slide, Jane. So I also made a visual, but when I looked at that visual, I almost had a heart attack. So that's why I did the like in time recording as well. But there's a couple of different ways you can drag and drop over from elements to the page, or you can go to the page where the stickies are and just right click and duplicate to write in. Yeah, I think that's all I have for that.
And I believe we're all Jane and Leora and I will stay on for a little bit if anybody wants to stay on with us and ask any questions or check in about anything. Otherwise, we want to honor your time. And we will see you on March 18th, and really, really appreciate you spending your time with us and engaging and recognizing that we didn't give you as much time as we had hoped for, but we hope you have been able to take away some positive things for moving forward today. Thank you very much.
Jane, Leora, and Melissa, I have a quick question for you guys.
Of course.
I was wondering if anybody has thought about, we're starting in our district to put together what I'm referencing as like a phone book. And it's people in our district that are able to, we're getting more and more languages that can interpret certain languages. And I didn't know if you guys were thinking about, is there an ability to do that for the state so that there's so many different languages being spoken that we could have perhaps access to people like our district has people that speak about 6 different languages that could then interpret, especially if we're trying to find a way to test students who are multi-language learners. So I didn't know if that was anything in the works or anything you think we could try to do, or even do a Google Doc type thing or anything like that.
Do you know that at CDS, we use the House of Languages for a lot of things?
Yes.
And that's helped a lot, especially during IEP meetings. We've used them, and they will do it on Zoom. They don't necessarily have to be present in the building wherever you're having the IEP meeting. So that's a resource there is House of Languages.
Thank you for sharing that.
Jane,
I think Terry, I could talk to you more about this. I think there is the role of what the Department of Education can do in terms of organizing that and local control. So I think the most important thing is that the law is pretty clear that the interpretation and translation is required, and that those be professionals. So that's where we get into like Google Translate and people translating things that then they can't cross-check for accuracy. So we really, want to be aware of, why, rather than no, sorry, we can't do that. It's really around like, why can't we do that?
Okay.
And not to be a barrier, but to say that what we are noticing is that people regionally are having conversations around what does our language access plan look like? And what do we need to be able to fund locally? And then a conversation that we're having in the state is like, what is our obligation? What could be our commitment to having universal translated materials that everyone needs, that are standard, that we could be providing, so that lifts that financial burden from the local level to be more precise and flexible to meet the needs of the families and students that you have, that maybe next door in your community, they have something quite different. Okay. So that's what we're working toward. And we did do something like this called Transact in about 2017, where we worked with an agency that did IDEA, 504, Gen Ed, translations of documents. And so that is something that I think the state could really look at. And also then you all could really get more precise with your translation and interpretation that's specific to the students and families.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Terry, for your question.
And I ended up coming in a little late because of the confusion of the other thing that Laura had sent for Tuesday. So my other question there is is this being recorded, and are we going to be sent the recording of this meeting? Yes or no?
It has been recorded, except for the first 90 seconds where Jane started talking and Melissa reminded me to hit record. So yes, the 99% of it is there for you, and you are always welcome to, reach out with questions, etc. as well.
And
Okay,
all
great.
the
course.
resources will be on the MDOV's website for multilingual learners with disabilities for the whole series. You'll be able to see the recording and then have access to the PDF of the slides as well.
Great. So I know last time you did take and send the slides, and that was very helpful.
Great. Right. So I just put in the chat the link to our website, and that's where we will be collecting per session the slides and the recording. And so that way those can be shared. And a lot of the resources that Melissa and Leora referenced are also hyperlinked on that page as well. So what we're hopeful for is that people can dive into specific sessions and really have people like a flipped classroom, watch the recording, come into a team meeting, have some resources, some tools, and start to create actionable steps toward, aligning to your priorities. What are your priorities in your district, in your school? If it's around collaborative structures, what do we need to make that happen? Those are the kinds of things that we want you to be able to differentiate. And so having the option to plug into each of these sessions was a goal, because knowing that not everyone can take an hour outside of their day to show up in person.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Say Julian really wanted to say, sorry, I was trying to say that Julian really wanted to say, this is Julian. He really wanted to say
Julian.
bye. Was he bye?
Bye.
Cracker.
Ooh, that looks
Oh.
yummy. Enjoy.
Thank
He
you,
was so
Desi.
upset when I turned off the video. All right.
Well, thank you for sharing him,
No worries.
It's like an action video.
right?
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Desi. Thanks so
Bye.
much. Take care.
Thank you.
Beauty.
Hi, Virginia.
Yes.
Hi,
Yes.
how are you?
Oh, I'm well. How are you?
Good. You were the first to come, and we love that you're with us at the
Oh,
very
well,
end.
I'm really excited, and this is really good information for me. So thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Can you remind us of your role and where you are?
Yeah, I'm just a long-term sub.
Oh.